Hey, everybody. This is the Career Authors Gang saying hi to you at Virtual Thriller Fest. We are five authors, editors, agents, people from publishing. We've done it all. And we're here today just to share a little bit of our craft knowledge with everybody at Thriller Fest. We're all ITW members, and we're really excited here to be here talking with you guys today. So what we're going to do is sort of this round robin. We're each going to ask each other a question and introduce each other. So I have the privilege to start with Hank Philippi Ryan. I'd like to have her introduce herself, and then I'm going to hit her with a hard question.
Uh-oh, Brian. Hi from Boston, everybody. I'm so glad to be here today. I'm Hank Philippi Ryan. I've written 12 thrillers. The Murder List is the current one. Coming out soon is The First to Lie. Can you see these? I'm supposed to be writing the 13th one, but I'd rather be talking to you.
Well, that's fantastic. And I'm sure that all your fans and everybody at Thriller Fest would love to know, what 3 character traits do all of the heroes in your novels share?
What 3 character traits do all the heroes in my novels share? That is a good question. Thank you. All right. The first one is that every main character, really every character, has to want something. Something happens to them, and as a result, they want something. And it has to make a difference in their life. Now, the cool part about that is what they want at the beginning of the novel will evolve and change and probably get bigger and more high stakes and different as the novel progresses. But on page 1, we ought to know what they think they want. The second thing is, to get that thing, they have to do something. There has to be action. There has to be something happening. They have to go after it with a focus. They have to make decisions along the way. On every page, there should be a decision that they're making, which causes some action to be taken, which causes some reaction to happen, which causes them to do something else and have to make another decision. So that wanting something at the beginning starts this domino effect of something happening along the way. Always something happening, always something escalating. And that said, with the escalation, especially because we're writing thrillers, is that the stakes have to be really high. It has to really matter. And I, the author, and you, the reader, have to really care about that. It has to matter to the person personally, emotionally, and also in the big picture of the book to other people in the book. There has to be stakes. There have to be really high stakes. So sometimes when I'm writing, I say to myself, if I'm a little bit stuck even at this one, I say, why do I care about this? Why does the reader care about this? What does someone want, and how far will they go to get it, and what will they do? And once you have that, once you have desire, once you have passion, once you have high stakes and action, then you have a thriller. I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna go do that right after we get off this panel. But I will introduce the next career author, who is my dear friend, all of our dear friends, Paula Mounier, who leads a double life as a mystery author and an agent, a literary agent. Paula Mounier in New Hampshire.
Hi, I'm Paula Mounier. I'm the senior agent and new title, Director of Storytelling and Content for Talcott Notch Literary, which is a literary agency. And I'm the author of the Mercy Carr Mysteries. This is the latest one, Blind Search. I'm thrilled to be doing this. It's great fun, and I look forward to my question.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you an agent question, because I know you're deluged with manuscripts and you have to make a decision about whose to take to submission. When an author sends you a manuscript, I've heard people say, oh, I'll submit this to an agent and then the agent will fix it. I don't really need to make it all that perfect. They'll see the innate talent that I have and make my book all better. How true is that? And how good does a manuscript have to be before you'll look at it? And how much are you willing to work on it?
Well, the truth is that it's a very high bar for traditional publishing, and especially crime fiction. The bar is high in terms of craft and in terms of commerce. When I first started, Jason Yarn, who's a great agent, I heard him say at a conference that he couldn't take a client on unless they were 90% there, because publishers only took on projects that were 95% there. And I think that's pretty true. I think a lot of times with debut authors, what you see is manuscripts that are maybe 50% there or 75% there. So there's a ways to go. And it's not like nonfiction where you can hire a ghostwriter. So in fiction, they expect you to be the writer, to have a high level of craft, to have a strong voice, to have a great idea, to have a well-executed plot. All those things are expected. So for me as the agent, my job is to sell this well-crafted story, right? And to do that, I need to be able to identify what the selling points of the story are and what the objections will be, right? What can sabotage my efforts to sell the story? So my job as your agent is to say, look, these elements work, they're great, blah, 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 but there are some issues here that you have to address. It's very bad to be resistant to editing, because what that says to an agent is, uh-oh, this client is gonna resist these notes. Then when she gets her notes from the publisher and the editor, she's gonna resist those notes, and the rewriting never stops. So it's important that writers embrace the revision process and that they understand that it never ends, that resistance is futile, and that you have to bring that dedication to craft with you. And you cannot expect the agent to fix it for you. You have to expect the agent to help you decide what needs fixing, and then you fix it. So, speaking about fixing things,
Right.
we have the fabulous editor extraordinaire, Dana Isaacson, and he's going to tell you a little bit about himself, and then I'm going to ask him an editing question.
All right, thank you, Paula. I'm Dana Isaacson. I'm a book editor, and I've worked in various jobs in my publishing career, from editor to agent briefly, to abridger, to ghostwriter. Most recently, I was an editor at Random House for 13 years, and now working freelance. What's your question?
My question is, what is the biggest mistake new novelists make?
Okay, well, this is something that I think probably everybody here is familiar with, because we've covered it a lot in Career Authors Post. But what may be the main issue for new novelists with great ideas and wonderful stories are problems with point of view. Chief among POV problems is inconsistency. Sometimes the story is told from one POV, one character, then it lapses into omniscient POV, where the narrator knows and sees all. Readers can be thrown by jumps like that, or other switches, like from first person to third. For a story to work, readers have to feel confident in the storytelling, and the narrative must feel in control. Head hopping, in which perspectives jump from one character to another within one section of the narrative, is often condemned as being too confusing for readers. It's not that this is wrong, Dan Brown does it, but it must be done skillfully and with care. Despite Dan Brown, commercial fiction authors are discouraged from head hopping. Controlling the POV is where career authors part ways with amateurs. Whose story is this? And what character has the most interesting perspective? Sometimes it's not the book's chief protagonist. Think Watson, relating the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Choosing your book's point of view is incredibly important. Executing this decision with skill will indicate to readers, agents, and editors that you know what you're doing. That's my answer. And my question is for a person leading a triple life. Jessica Strasser, she's a writing expert. She's a successful novelist, and she's a mom. You want to introduce yourself more than that?
I'm Jessica Strasser. I don't know if I'm really living a triple life, but I'm an editor at large at Writer's Digest, where I was editorial director for about 10 years. One of the jobs I had the good fortune to do at Writer's Digest was to send daily dispatches from Thriller Fest, where I would attend sessions all day long at the Hyatt and take notes, and then send a newsletter on behalf of international thriller writers and Writer's Digest to our combined subscriber pool every single day, which was so much fun. Lots of work, but so much fun to do. And now I'm a novelist as well. I have 3 domestic suspense novels out. My most recent is Forget You Know Me. They're all with St. Martin's Press. And what is your question for me, Dana?
All right. My question is related kind of to the question I had about point of view, which is, and not because I know that in some of your novels that there's different POVs throughout. And so in novels featuring multiple viewpoints, how do you maintain the plot's rhythm or suspense? How do you fashion an exciting narrative that is told by alternating POVs?
Yeah, it can be tricky because what you don't want is to have one point of view that's working really well and another that's really not. That can result in a really lopsided story. All 3 of my novels alternate point of view between 3 different characters. My one that's coming out next year only alternates between 2. But I think we have all read a novel, and it happens a lot for me with dual timelines, where maybe there's a historical timeline and there's a present day timeline, and you just find yourself a lot more interested in one of those points of view than the other. And you find yourself kind of skimming the other parts to get back to the character's point of view that you like the most. And that is definitely what we don't want. Especially in suspense, you got to leave out the parts that people skim, right? So I like to, but I love multiple point of view novels that are done well as a reader and as a writer. And what I like to do is really play with the idea that every narrator is an unreliable narrator. There's a lot of talk about highly unreliable narrators, in books like Girl on the Train, Gone Girl. But I'm talking about just if you and I got in a fender bender in the grocery store parking lot, we would both go home and tell our significant others probably a slightly different version of that same story, just by virtue of our own limited perspective and the context that every character brings to a situation. We're all a little bit skewed, a little bit of an unreliable narrator. So I think, especially as a suspense writer, switching points of view, what you want to do is you want to exploit that. Challenge yourself to really look at each point of view character and find out the things that only that character can tell you. And you want to challenge the reader that you need to pay attention to every character's point of view if you want to be able to puzzle together this entire story. You could not tell the same story if you left one of those points of view out. There's something that every character knows that only they know, or that only they saw that way. And that's how you're going to puzzle it together at the end. And I think that's the key to keeping that rhythm and that suspense tight when you're switching back and forth chapter to chapter. And I am pleased to introduce our last member of the Career Authors team, and I think our most intimidating member, Brian Andrews. Brian, you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Hey everybody, I'm Brian Andrews. I am a US Navy veteran, and I also am a co-author. I write the Tier 1 series with Jeffrey Wilson, and the newest book in the series is called Red Spectre.
So Brian, I wanted to ask you, you really take write what you know as a rule to an extreme, and you draw on your unique life experience in the military to spin your plots with the kind of authentic details that can really only come from firsthand knowledge or a heck of a lot of research. So when you're taking readers into a highly specified world, which a lot of suspense writers do, whether that be the military or police work or the FBI, how do you incorporate the right amount of detail, the right amount of insider knowledge and kind of shop talk without overloading the reader and making it too unrelatable and losing them along the way?
I think that's a great question. And I think that the key is, as a writer, that we have to trust our readers to be able to navigate the landscape that we paint for them. So if you think of yourself as sort of providing the guardrails, let them navigate the roads. You just provide the guardrails where they need to go. And I think one of the mistakes that new novelists make is that they try to over-explain. They feel that if they can show that they're a technical expert, maybe explaining ad nauseum, the details on a particular weapon or system or the inner functionings of the CIA. They think that that will show that they have street cred and convince the reader that they know what they're talking about. But, you know, when you reflect on, you know, your answer to the point of view question and Dana talking about point of view, you have to think about, does a pro, you know, a Navy SEAL or an FBI agent or a CIA officer, are they thinking about the make of their gun and all the technical specifications of the bullets in the magazine when they're pulling it from their holster? No, they've used this weapon for years. It's part of them. It's an extension of them. So they're not reciting these things to themselves. They know how their organization functions. They know how to talk to their buddies without having to explain every little piece of detail to, you know, a certain level of minutia that, you know, even somebody maybe in the industry wouldn't know that level of detail. So if you keep it at sort of the middle of the lane and you talk with confidence, you write with confidence, your character is conducting themselves like a pro, the action, the decisions that they make, the suspense, that's enough. That's enough.
Great.
Does that make sense?
Can you hold up your book, Brian?
Sure. My latest is called Red Spectre. It's the 5th book in the Tier 1 series.
So that's great, you guys. I wish I could have taken notes through that whole thing.
Well, I wish we could have been together in person for real. But this will have to do.
Next year in New York.
Mention our website.
And
I know about the website.
I will see some of you at Pitch Fest virtually. So.
And we'll be all together every week at Career Authors at www.careerauthors.com, where we'll have blogs from each of us, posts from each of us, and guest posts from fabulous people and interviews, the Career Authors 11 with the rock stars of the literary world. So thank you so much for being here. Everybody say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Next year in New York, you all.